Howdy everyone. Are you looking for a method for how you can master all of your Pictos in Expedition 33 the fastest way possible, as quickly and efficiently as you can? Well, you're in the right place. Given that there's so many different guides in Expedition 33, you'd expect something that this rudimentary should exist. Right? You'd expect to see something like how to master Pictos quickly, but you can find nothing of the sort on YouTube, on Reddit, on Google. There's no documentation whatsoever. There's no tutorial, there's no guide, there's not even any kind of reference to this idea. So I'm not sure why it doesn't exist, but don't worry, I've got you covered here. So let's get into how you can achieve this. So before we move forward, I need to preface this with some very important information. The first being that there will be no spoilers in this video. This is completely spoiler free. Aside from the mention of Sciel, there will be nothing talked about from the story or character aspects or anything to do with extra content. We will not be discussing that in today's video. We're just strictly focusing on how you can do Picto grinding and how you can master them as efficiently and quickly as possible. Right? That's it. But that being said, you need to be aware that you cannot do this grind unless you're in Act 3. So if you happen to be in Act 1 or Act 2 and you're, on this video and hoping not to get spoiled, don't worry. You're not going to get spoiled. However, be aware that you won't be able to do this until Act 3. So if you want to have this knowledge for yourself for later, feel free to stick around and learn a little bit more. But you cannot achieve this unless you have unlocked Sciel's last ability. If you got into Act 3, you know what that is. But you will not be able to complete this unless you've met this requirement. So just letting you know ahead of time. Now, you will need a little bit of money in order to achieve this. You'll need about, let's say, 5,500 chroma to at least get the Picto. And depending on where you are in the game, you might need a little bit more money to level up weapons if you have them at low level. So all you got to do is look at this map here. We're in the very first continental area. When you first get here, after receiving Sciel, you should be able to break some rocks. Just want to navigate over to the area I've demonstrated here on the map, and you can find the yellow harvest area. Now in this area, it's very simple to navigate. You're just going to go past the very first flag in front of you when you enter and head to the wall on the right and climb it. You're just going to climb up the walls and go straight on rails all the way up until you get to the very first part of this yellow harvest area where you can actually branch off. And once you get there, you're just going to keep going straight and hang a little bit towards the right. Just kind of move forward and rightish until you reach the very first lip. It's like a little ledge you can climb across. Just climb up the ledge and then keep going forward. You're going to reach the second flag, which is called the Harvester's Hollow. When you've gotten there, you know you're in the right place. So now after you reach the Harvester's Hollow flag, you just want to move forward and hang towards the right. The right side of the area is going to lead you to a path that has a hill that goes upwards. You're just going to climb up the hill slightly to avoid the Nevron there, and then just going to drop off towards the right, because that's going to lead you to the first Picto, which is the Death Bomb. So ignore the Nevron and go back towards the hill. If you happen to get into a fight, that's okay. Just destroy them and move on. Go back up the hill. Keep climbing upwards. You're going to avoid the journal there, or collect it if you want to. You're going to keep moving forward until you reach the edge of the cliff. You're going to reach a spot in which you can do a chroma tether. So you're going to grapple onto the top of this platform and talk to the gestural there, who can sell you the auto death Picto for 5,320 chroma. And if you wanted to, electively, at your choice, you can actually fight the gestural and get another pretty good Picto called Teamwork. But you'll need about like 9,100 chroma to buy it. So, but it's worth getting it if you want. It's another Picto for your collection, so I highly recommend getting it. It's not required for this tutorial. I'm just saying it's a good Picto for you to have. Now that we have both Pictos, we've got 50% of it complete. Now we're ready to move on to the next step. You can leave the area by jumping behind you and going back to the same flag, which was the Harvester's Hollow flag, and you can choose to leave or go back to the continent from here. Now the next area we're going to go to is actually the Endless Tower. This is where we're going to do our grind. Alright, the Endless Tower is a spot you can't really miss. It's the second tallest structure in its entire world. If you look around, you'll see it. It's actually on the western side of the entire map. You'll know it's the right place because when you go to your map, you're going to see like a diamond-shaped C in a circle. It's like a little coin. It looks like a coin. You can't miss it. Well, once you get inside the Endless Tower, you're just going to move forward into the next area, and then you're going to get to the first flag, and we're going to do our preparations here. We don't have to interact with anything here except the flag and the challenge itself. We don't need to do anything extra. We're just going to focus on these two things. So now we're going to get into the actual setup here. For this, we're going to be focusing on Maelle. She's going to be our person who's going to die and kill the enemies with the use of the auto death and the death bomb. Why do we use Maelle and not anyone else? Well, you could use anyone else, and I'll show you that in the later section. I'll be using Sciel to show it off too, but I'm using Maelle because every player has access to a certain weapon that cannot be missed in this game called the Mellerum, and that weapon is what we're going to use for our minimal showcase. As you can see here, these are the Luminas I have equipped on Maelle. You can replicate the setup if you have it. If you don't know where to find some of these, let me know. Leave me a comment, and I will go over a guide on how you can get every single one of these. But I imagine most players have these already. These are not hard to find. And by the time you get to Act 3, you should already have most of these, if not all of these, and then some. Now, these equipped Luminas that I have here are not entirely probably all necessary, but these are very little amount. I mean, there's less than 130 points necessary for these. And the ones that I have equipped are not needed at all. You don't need Stay Marked, Gradient Breaker, or Empowering Parry. You can equip something else there instead, or you can substitute some of the ones that are on this list to lower your Lumina cost. So you can put Shield Affinity, you can put Warming Up and Immaculate on the equipped Pictos list. That way you can save yourself up to 35 Lumina points. And aside from the Luminas that up your power, which all of these are, the one that is necessary 100% is the one called Painted Power. This is a story-based Picto that you're not going to miss also, so I'm not going to tell you where you get this. You won't miss it by the time you get to Act 3, so you don't have to worry about that. But it is required for you to turn it on the character. So you can have it equipped as a Picto or have it equipped as a Lumina. The choice is yours, but it needs to be on, otherwise you won't never be able to master your Pictos because you won't be able to kill the enemies without it. Now, in terms of equipment, there are many that you can use, but for this demonstration, I'm going with the Mellerum because this weapon is not missable to Maelle at any point. You will get this weapon by the time you reach Act 3. You can't miss it. You get it directly from a boss in Act 2, so it's impossible for a player not to have it. And this is why I'm using it for my minimalist requirement of this, because everyone can achieve the exact same results that I have. Now, Maelle has a plethora of very good weapons, so many of them could work here in the same exact fashion. However, we're going to stick to the Mellerum for today. And I'll even show you another character method that you can use. You can use anyone for this. I'm just choosing to use Maelle just for the sake of demonstrating it in a way that everyone can achieve without much work or effort. For your stats, you just want to have Might at 99 with Maelle. The level does not matter. You just need to reach 99 points of stat, which just needs you to be about level 33 or so. So every player should be able to achieve this as well, unless you're doing super low level runs. So here I'm loading up an old save file and showing you exactly the setup. So I got Mellerum to level 30 and with 99 points of might, and that's it on Maelle. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. You go into battle, you automatically die, the enemies get killed from your nuke, and the battle is over. And you rinse and repeat this. You do this 4 times, you get a mastered Picto from this. That's all. So I'm just showing you exactly how long it takes. As you can see here, it's very quick. You don't really have to think about it much. You just go into battle and it's done for you. It's like playing an auto map on Mario Maker. It's very simple. No work is required. So what you could do is just have this character out of your party and then bring them in every time you need to master Pictos. You just come back to the tower and bring this character along into your party and then have a Picto mastering machine. Now that you've seen how this works, let me go over a different setup that I have been trying out here. You don't have to do this. This is just me showing what I did in this situation, given the whole setup. You're free to explore and do it your own way. Now that you understand what to do, I'm just showing you things that you can achieve with different characters. If you don't want to use Maelle, you want to use someone else, you're free to do so. So in this case, I'm using Sciel, but out of all the weapons I have with Sciel, there are some that you can use and there's some that you cannot use. So for Sciel, the Minason, the Ramason, the Globeson, and the Heaveson are all ones that you can use. Those weapons are just fine and will kill all 3 of them without much effort. But the majority of her weapons at level 32 cannot be used because the thing is, you need to avoid certain elemental affinities. Like the Martinon, for example, can't be used because it is a earth elemental weapon, and even though it has a lot of power, Sciel will heal the very first enemy, and you will not be able to do the auto bomb strat this way. So what I do is I equip something like the Minason or the Ramason, because those are powerful enough weapons, and with Sciel I need to hit a total of about 6,000 attack power in order to beat them reliably. And the reason I go a little bit higher than the traditional attack power, so like in this case I have 6,400, because of the way that the damage variance works in this game. Sometimes you hit a lesser amount because that is the lowest amount on the damage calc. So to avoid that, you just have to have enough power that your minimum amount of damage is still over the total health of the opponent. And so out of the 3 opponents that we have, we'll have the Gault, which is the leftmost enemy. We have the Luster, which is the enemy in the middle. And we have the Ramasseur. Not sure if I'm pronouncing all these correctly, but that's the 3rd enemy, the one all the way on the right, the small one. They all have different elemental affinities and resistances. And like, for example, the Gault absorbs earth, so you don't want to equip an earth elemental weapon. The Ramasseur actually resists dark, so you don't want to equip a dark weapon to fight them. And unfortunately, most of Sciel's weapons are dark rated, so that's an unfortunate thing. So the Ramasseur's weakness is light. Then you have the Luster, whose weakness is lightning damage and doesn't have a resistance. However, the Gault has a resistance to lightning and ice, absorbs the earth, but is weak to fire damage. So out of all the weapons to use, you have these elements are your best. You have fire, you have physical, you have light, and then you have void. So these 4 elements are fine. If you have a weapon that has any of these 4 elements, you are free to use them. Just don't use any of the listed affinities beforehand, because if you do use them, you might risk leaving them alive and not killing them automatically. Unless you have a level 33 weapon that might just be able to do enough damage to bypass. However, we're not trying to use all of our resources. We just want to use as little as possible. And so that's why with Maelle, the Malarum is perfectly fine, because it's a weapon you get within the game. You can't miss it. You can always upgrade it. And getting your stat points on Might to 99 is not too difficult to achieve. And if you have all my Pictos that I've listed equipped, you should be able to one-shot each one of these reliably without any effort at all. Now, let me get into the setup with you. These are Luminas that I've equipped on my Sciel. Well, I'm going to be showing you from start to finish. I'm going to show off 18 different Pictos that I'm going to master, and you're going to see exactly the entire process, how long this whole thing takes. From now to the end of the video is basically how long it takes for me to master about 18 different Pictos. I've set the difficulty to expert so that you can see this work on the hardest difficulty allowed so far. This will work as long as you hit 64,000 damage on all foes. They will all die. As you've seen there, my Sciel was able to hit this much. So let's see how long it takes for me to master 18 different Pictos. Each of these fights takes about a second to complete. And it takes about a couple seconds, maybe 1 to 3 seconds to get into the next phase. As you see there, we already have 6 different master Pictos there. Luna has mastered the 3 that she had equipped, and Sciel has mastered the 3 that she had equipped. So now I'm just going to remove them and equip 3 other new ones. And this part is probably the one that takes the longest. It's actually quite comical. Mastering the Pictos takes no time at all. However, equipping new Pictos to master is what takes up the most time. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I just showed you a new setup that I tried on. It was just a very haphazardly thrown setup. It's not one that you have to imitate. It's just one that I used. And it worked. And I was able to master 18 different Pictos with this idea. And you can do the same on your end. Let me know what kind of different teams you guys have set up on your end. I'd be curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. One other thing I should mention is that, so I've actually tried to experiment with the idea of the 3rd person. If anyone finds a way to keep the 3rd person alive and still reap the benefits of the Picto grind, then let me know. But so far, the maximum amount of Pictos you can grind is 6. I was trying to make it about 8 or maybe even 9, but I don't think it's possible. I've already tried using Survivor as an idea, but Survivor saves you from dying, so it leaves you at 1 HP. If you want to know how to get that, I can always show it off too, but Survivor doesn't work, and I don't know of any other way to bring myself back before the enemy dies, so you can't use anything like Second Chance. So none of that works, so I think the max is 6 for now. If you guys, again, if you find any other solutions to bypass that, I'm very curious to know. I'm always looking for ways to elevate my grind. So if you are aware of such, let me know either in the comments or PM me or anything like that. I'm always open to suggestions. Now, but that's everything that you need to know. As you saw, it's not a very lengthy process. I mean, it does take a very little amount of setup, but it's not very much so. And like I said, you probably already have all of this anyway. Like, you most likely have encountered the auto death and the death bomb Pictos in some time in your travel, and you probably already even mastered it. You don't even need to really master them. You just have to have them equipped on your character who's dying. But even if not, if you have them mastered, then that's even better. Yeah, so you don't even really need to master them. You can just have them equipped. But regardless, the setup isn't very complicated. It's very straightforward and narrow. And I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know if you want me to do any more tutorials, or like how to find certain things, or like efficient methods of grinding or efficient methods of battling. I've got tons of theories, I've got tons of ideas, and tons of things I've tested in this game that I haven't told anyone yet. So if you want to see builds and all that stuff, like cool little funky builds that I've made that no one else has really made, let me know and I'm going to show them off for you guys. I've got tons of them. And if you want to see more guides and all that stuff, you already know what to do. You know, follow me on the socials down below. Just do the whole algorithm stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace out and keep it styling, y'all.